Okay, so now we are back for round whatever the hell this is. Um, it is just easier for me to make these in the few minutes a day that I have to me, which I'll still be interrupted 12 times. So, if you have kids, you know how that goes. So I left off last time on where I had landed in Phoenix. And so at this point, now a lot of this stuff is happening simultaneously. And I'm kind of out of chronological order on this, but I'm going to tell my Lutheran story first because it's shorter. So I had decided to check out the Lutheran church because, like I said before, I had, my nose ring's doing a thing. I had gone to a Lutheran school as a child, and it was okay. So I jumped online and I looked up the tenets of faith of the Lutheran Church. And a lot of it, seemed okay. I could get behind that. And what I did not know then that I discovered was that there are two different types of Lutherans. I forget the names of them off the top of my head, but one is very conservative and traditional, and the other one is a bit more progressive. So the church that was right down the street from my apartment actually had a female pastor. Cool, and they were one of the more progressive types. So I went a couple of times. And it was fine, but what I couldn't get with was how everything is scripted. I mean, absolutely everything is scripted. If I recall correctly, the only time that it wasn't to the letter scripted was when the actual part of the sermon was being done. And the sermon was, it was fine. It wasn't anything I had a beef with, but I just couldn't get behind a script. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel real. And again, I have no problem with the doctrine. I did appreciate the more progressive views, such as having a female pastor or priest or whatever she was called. I did appreciate how they were more receptive of the LGBTQ plus whatever letters there are now community. And I appreciated a lot about the doctrine itself. However, it didn't feel, for one thing, it felt very Catholic, which, if you know anything about the Lutheran faith, it's came into existence by Martin Luther when he broke from the Catholic Church and wrote the 95 Theses and nailed it to the church door, basically saying this is what's fucked about Catholicism. So there was that. But, when you go off and you start your own thing, just like a teenager that they're trying to get away from mom and dad's house, they're still going to bring a lot of their ways with them regardless. My family is, on one side of my mom's family, is off the boat, literally off the boat from Germany through Ellis Island, the whole nine, and another side is off the boat from Germany not through Ellis Island. They've been in this country since the 1600s. So they're Pennsylvania Dutch. But Pennsylvania Dutch is still Germany in Pennsylvania. So when my family came over during the wars from Germany, they didn't want to have anything to do with Germany, but that's the language that they knew. That's the culture they knew. That's the food that they knew. And they went and immigrated into the Pennsylvania Dutch, which is Germany. So the Lutherans are not, they're definitely a cousin to the Catholics. Whereas, side note, Episcopalians are Catholic. It's simply the Church of England instead of the Pope being the head. The Episcopalians are, they have the reigning monarch, and right now is King Charles is the head of the Church of England. So it's still Catholic. It's just a different name with a different leader that allows a few more tidbits. And that was entirely based off of King Henry VIII just wanting to play hide the pickle with a variety of women. You know, he's infamous for his wives. So there's that. So, you know, I went for a little while. I'd say 4 or 5 months. And I reached out, like I said in my last video, I was having a lot of personal issues at the time, and it was a very, very, very difficult time in my life. So I reached out to the pastor, or whatever she was, for help. And I think she wrote me back in an email once, and then I didn't hear anything from her. There was clearly no, let's reach out and help a new person coming into the congregation. There was no personal care or anything of the sort, and that really turned me off. So I quit going. A couple years later, I did go to, I had a boyfriend at the time from Germany, and he was in the States for about 9 months, training in Arizona as a pilot. He's a Lufthansa pilot now, does very well, and if you ever see this, hey! So Germans are traditionally very Lutheran. So I went to church with him a couple of times at a different Lutheran church, and it was the same thing. It was the same thing. So Lutheran was not for me. Okay. So I mentioned in my previous video about the night that I met my sister Melissa. Well, the friend that we had gone over to see that night, she's Mormon. I have to give her all credit and all respect because she is so true and so real and so absolutely faithful. I mean, she is, my friend and her family are outstanding people, and they live the tenets of the Mormon faith to the nth degree. Kind and loving and beautiful, wonderful people. And I'll say offhand, I personally have never encountered a Mormon that wasn't supremely awesome. From the missionaries to regular families, they are, in my experience, which is extensive, wonderful people. Okay, so I want to preface everything I'm going to say about my feelings on the Mormon Church with that I am grateful from my experience. And because I have so much experience with the Mormon church, several of my friends have said that I get to be like an unofficial Mormon. Not a Jack Mormon because I've never been baptized, but I get to be like a... There's a word that we always used. I forget what it was. But anyway, I get to be like a pretend Mormon, okay? Because I know more about the Mormon church, and I will confidently say this, than a great many of the Mormons, and particularly the missionaries. I love meeting with missionaries. Anytime they come around, I offer them, come in, sit down, be comfortable. Please don't ever be a jackass to a Mormon missionary. They're kids. They are 18, 19 years old. They're away from home. They're elders, but they're just doing what they're supposed to do. They're spouting what they're supposed to say. They're doing their best. Don't be an asshole to them. Don't slam a door in their face. Just be kind. Even if you're not interested, you can say that with kindness. You don't have to say that in a demeaning, cruel, or belittling way. So, I always invite the missionaries to come in. We talk about it. I ask them questions. They ask me questions. They've never failed to offer help. Do you need help with anything? Is there anything we can do for you? They listen to my kid babble and go on and on and on about all his random stuff, which he's super duper into Minecraft. And, they're all about at least pretending to be attentive and care. So I always keep beverages on hand, of a lot of different types. And because they follow the word of wisdom, one of the aspects of the word of wisdom is a restriction on drinking coffees and teas and sodas and caffeines and stuff like that. So if you want to be kind to a missionary and show them some respect, a Sprite is okay to offer them, or lemonade or something like that. They're not going to drink coffee. They're not going to drink tea. They're definitely not going to drink an energy drink. Caffeinated sodas are kind of, see where they land on that at a given time. But, so my friend, being the good Mormon that she is, she invited me to go to church. And I was aware of the LDS church. I was aware of the Mormons, but I didn't really know a lot. I knew that they consider themselves Christian, whereas a lot of Christians, mainstream Christians, do not consider them Christian. So I think that's you determine that for yourself where you land on that kind of thing. If studying the Mormon faith is something that is ever of interest to you in any way. So she invited me to go to church, and sure, I'll go, and I was really intrigued. I was very, very intrigued. And I went to church with her a couple of times, and I was at my apartment. Now I'm living in Tempe at this point, so I'm really close to the Mesa Temple. I'm living in Tempe, and I was doing my laundry, and I saw a couple of sisters walking through the apartment complex, and I greeted them kindly. Now, how many people actually ask the Mormons to come and visit? So I greeted the sisters. I said, if you have some time, can you come up and talk to me? So they're, of course, yippee skippy, we're on our way, And I got to know them. I had a great time with them. They were very kind. I remember their names. I have lost contact with them at this point because, again, this is 20 years ago. but I do know that they went on to have their families, and from last I knew, they were living pretty happy, pretty good Mormon lives. So my friend is enthralled that I'm taking the discussions with the Mormon missionaries. Now, the discussions are your introduction to learning about the Mormon faith. They give you a copy of the Book of Mormon, which most of the time, unless they've run out, the missionaries are going to carry a basic copy of the Book of Mormon with them. They don't carry a triple combo. They don't get you into the additional scriptures until later. So the Book of Mormon is their main book. And they believe the Bible. They read the King James Bible, and they believe it as far as it's translated correctly. Okay. They believe the Book of Mormon to be the most true book written, as it's the translation from Joseph Smith. Okay. I'm not getting into opinions on anything. I'm telling you this is what they believe. Take it as you will. If you're here and you're hanging out with me and following anything, that's the game. So, you get the Book of Mormon and you take the discussions, and they go through the Word of Wisdom with you. And the Word of Wisdom it's pretty chill. It's, basically, these are the ways that we live, in ways that we believe is a way to live pure, a way to live honorably in respect of Heavenly Father. They pretty much refer to God as Heavenly Father, so I'll roll with that for while I'm talking about him. We believe that this is the best way to live your life, and it encompasses some basic things, basic moral codes, basic treatment of your body. You don't drink alcohol, you don't smoke, you don't, do this or that or whatever. So it's pretty self-explanatory if you ever happen to look it up. It is what it is. It's their belief structure. So they tell you about that. And at some point, I'm going to have to pull out the pictures. I didn't think about it until just now, but I'm going to have to pull out the pictures of when I was reading or having the discussions with the Mormons, because I was being an ass one day, and they kind of got a kick out of it. I'm sure they weren't truly impressed, but they played along like they were. I took a can of beer, one of my roommate's cans of beer, put it under my chin, and I had a cigarette hanging out of my mouth and one out of both of my ears, So I'm just being my usual ridiculous self. Hey, this is me. Take it or leave it. So, we had a lot of fun. And I had a copy of a book called The God Makers, and I don't know off the top of my head who the author was. But The God Makers is a book that is, in my opinion, very contrary to what the Mormons believe. It's not just, this is the extra stuff that they don't tell you about. It's very derogatory. It's very inflammatory against the Mormons. It's just not a nice book. And it's not accurate. From what I read and what I knew at the time, it was definitely not an accurate portrayal of the Mormon doctrine. Now, I'll throw in the caveat here that since I have learned a lot more from that time, it's possible, and I haven't read it since, and I don't remember much about it, but it is entirely possible that there actually is a lot more factual stuff in the Godmakers than what I knew at the time. So let me put that in there. I have no desire to read it again. I know my opinions on it, so we'll leave it at that. Anyway, I had asked my friend that I was going to church with and the missionaries to come over, and they had another convert that would kind of pal around with them sometimes, and she was right at the beginning. She was all kinds of hot and bothered to get to the temple, and she wasn't ready yet, but she was really working towards being considered worthy to go to the temple. So I asked them to come over, and I said, I have a surprise for you. So we brought them over, pulled out marshmallows, I lit the grill out on the porch, and I brought out the Godmakers book, and we barbecued the Godmakers, the book. They had a great deal of fun with that. I have a lot of pictures. So that was a lot of fun. Okay, so I went to the church. I went to sacrament meeting. I went to the testimonies. I went to the baptisms. I loved going to the temple grounds, going to the Mesa Temple. It was so peaceful. I always found it to be not just beautiful, but peaceful. To me, it was a very nice place to be. It brought me comfort, not spiritual comfort, but like environmental comfort in being there. So I loved going to the visitor center, and I went through all the videos, all of the everything that's at the visitor centers, all the different ones that I've gone to. I've done the whole gamut. Like I said, baptisms, the church, done the discussions. I've read the Book of Mormon. I've read the other scriptures, or the Doctrine and Covenants, the Pearl of Great Price, and the Articles of Faith. I forget. But I was all in Mormonism for about 2 years. Not because I believed it, but because I was studying it. I knew off the cuff I didn't believe it. So when they asked me, will you get baptized? No, I won't. Because I knew that what I was doing was learning. I wasn't feeling the spiritual connection. I did not get the burning in the bosom, because that's what they say, is that if once you've taken the discussions, your confirmation is when you take the discussions and you think about it, and you do your reading and you do your homework, for lack of a better term. And if this is true for you, if you feel that the church is true, you get a confirmation by what they call the burning in the bosom. And I did not have that. I did not have that confirmation, and I weighed it against all of the other studying that I had done over time. And I knew that this was not something that I was going to commit my life to, because 1, I didn't believe it, and 2, I knew I wasn't going to follow the word of wisdom. It was not for me. It was not, whereas I respect and appreciate that they have the doctrine, it was not something that I was going to say, yes, I'm going to commit to this, knowing full well I'm not going to. I refuse to be a hypocrite. I'm sure I am in many ways that I don't recognize, but in the ways that I can recognize, I won't do it. And And they were fine with that. You know, they figured that, okay, she's undunked for right now. We'll keep hanging out with her, you know. They never gave up on me. So I went to the young singles. I went to the family wards. I went to the young singles wards. I was still dating that guy at the time. I went to the activities and things like that they had. It was awesome. And if I were able to disconnect at the time, and for a long time thereafter, if I had been able to disconnect my beliefs from the culture and the ways of the Mormon church, I would have joined the church because I appreciated the ways that they lived. That's how I felt at the time, and that's how I felt for a long time thereafter. You know, I have a lot of respect for your average run-of-the-mill Jane and Joe Mormon. Now, the higher-ups and a lot of the other stuff that goes on with the church, no. But your average run-of-the-mill Mormon does not know about a lot of that. Especially since they stay away from anything that is not church sanctioned. So, I can say that of all of the churches that I have attended, the LDS church is one that never fucked me over. I can say that with full confidence. I never had a beef with the Mormon church. I never had a beef with the Mormon people. I just don't. My daughter actually just married a wonderful, wonderful guy that was raised Mormon. His family's Mormon. He does not attend the church, but sentiment stands, you know. Whatever it is that he believes, he's exactly who you want for your kid. You know, so that's my take on the Mormon church. Fabulous people. Fabulous people. Take it as you will. Now, again, personally, and I'll leave it at this, personally, I think that the doctrine is a lot of really fantastic fairy tales. It's fascinating to study. Okay, so that's my take on the Mormon church. It's not, they're the only ones that didn't fuck me over. I fully understand and appreciate that once you're in the church and you are living the life, that there is a hell of a lot of high expectation and a lot of the purity culture and a lot of the teachings and stuff like that. I have known way too many people who have been long-term and permanently damaged because of the LDS church. It's done damage in a lot of ways. It's an organized religion. So, I hear my kid coming up. I'm going to leave it off right there because that is my Mormon story.